Hello students. Today I would like to present on the topic of content analysis. Last time we discussed the content in analyzing the semantic aspects. This time we will look at content analysis, which is the most basic and simplest form of analysis among the various techniques we use for qualitative data analysis. As the name suggests, it involves analyzing content, meaning we will have text and content that we obtain, whether from secondary sources or various data, such as interviews or other materials. We need to establish an understanding first that when conducting content analysis, we must know where the content we want to analyze comes from and what questions we aim to answer.
So researchers use content analysis to identify patterns, themes, or meanings within data. For example, you might analyze social media posts to identify trends in public opinion or news article to comprehend media framing. In short, content analysis is all about what is being said and how it's being said. Well, there are two main types of content analysis if you are interested in looking at points. First, content analysis, even though it is the qualitative base, but there is the so-called quantitative content analysis, which you focus on counting and measuring the number of words or symbol that you can spot in the non-text document. For example, how many times does the words sustainability appear in corporate reports? You count the number of the term, or you might be slightly more flexible, say sustainability and the term that are related to sustainability. So we only look at the frequency and often use statistics in terms of frequencies, number of tables to report it. Type 2 is qualitative content analysis, which we focus on interpreting meaning and context from the data. For example, what themes emerge in interviews about gender equality? It often uses coding and thematic analysis to be a part of the content analysis. So, in fact, both approaches are quite valuable. So, let's look at the steps in conducting content analysis. We need to look at 5 key steps as a basic concept. Step 1, define the research question. Start with a clear question or hypothesis. For example, how do brands communicate ESG practice on Instagram? All right, so you understand this is what you want to ask. In step 2, you have to select the data. Choose the one that you plan to analyze, and that could be the combination of text, interviews, videos, podcasts, images, report. You have to be sure that your data set is relevant to the point that you want to explore. And of course, it has to be sufficient. In step 3, you need to develop a coding scheme. Well, in quantitative analysis, if you look at the frequency and the number, codes might be specific words, groups of words or phrases. But in qualitative, codes are themes or categories emerging from the content as you plan and interpret. For example, let's go back to the analysis of ESG report. Your codes might include something like environment, climate action, community engagement, responsible consumption. In stage 4, you have to analyze the content by look at the frequency if it is quantitative, or interpret the patterns, relationship of themes if this is qualitative. And in the last step, report the findings. Summarize your analysis with visual, such as charts, word cloud for quantitative data, or detailed descriptions for qualitative data if you look at the themes. All right. So if you look at some example, imagine you want to analyze news article to understand how climate change is framed. Here, first, you start with research question, and that should be how do media outlets portray climate change to the public? Move on to the data. You might select 100 articles from major newspaper over 6 months that contain the concept of climate change. Coding scheme. Then you read and then you start to group the words and design the code such as sign-based framing, economic impact, policy, solutions. Then you start to count occurrence of each code and identify trends. For instance, you might find that 60% of articles emphasize on economic impact, while only 20% focus on science. And that means the public opinion might move more into the economic impact. This method can provide valuable insight to guide policy, communication, or even business decision. You can also see this in the forms of social listening, and then you can use that to identify the sentiment, whether this is neutral, positive, or negative. Here are some tips to make your content analysis effective. Be clear about your research objectives. You know you are going to explore something and be clear with that. Well, number two, you can use some software such as NVivo, MaxQDA, or Target to assist while coding. 3, ensure your dataset is reliable and representative, because otherwise it might be misled by the analysis. Next, always pilot test your coding scheme to refine it. How to conduct a pilot test? You have to create a group, put it in, and try to read out loud, or let some other researcher to read and give you some feedback. And the last one is remain objective and consistent throughout the process. So to wrap up this content analysis, we know that it is a powerful research method for examining patterns in communication, whether quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods. Have to be clear on what you need at a question, then you can develop a systematic coding schemes followed by the analysis of your data to reveal key insight. So at this point of time, I encourage you to think about content analysis and try conducting a simple content analysis yourself. Start small, maybe analyze your favorite blog on your television channel. Thank you for joining this session. I hope this brief introduction equips you with the knowledge and skill in content analysis.